Little things can certainly add up, and sometimes that's a good thing. But what if those little things are the nagging annoyances that you have to deal with day after day in your classroom? No pencil, a lost paper, constant side conversations, gum chewing, I can't find my Chromebook, I left my homework at home. Oh my gosh, sometimes I feel like if you don't laugh, you're gonna start crying. Well, today we're going to talk about some of those behaviors that just add up and lead to your frustration and sense of burnout. And of course, what some steps you can take to help your students and yourself in the process. Hey friends, welcome to Enjoy Teaching Again, the podcast for teachers who love the work but need a little spark to bring the joy back. I'm your host, Elizabeth Peterson, classroom teacher, arts integration specialist, and passionate educator of over 25 years. If you're overwhelmed by behaviors, disengaged students, and long, exhausting days, you are not alone. But together, we can turn things around and you can teach with confidence and purpose again. So locate that cold coffee of yours, find your favorite pen, I know you have one, and let's dive in. It's time to get inspired and enjoy teaching again. You know, I see you. You're struggling to keep your students' attention. You're frustrated with the fact that you don't have any flexibility in your content anymore. You've tried the typical hacks and it just didn't really work out. Maybe you're tired of repeating directions 12 times a day, tired of students blurting out and shutting down. Maybe you're tired of feeling like your creativity has to live in a tiny corner because there's just no time for that. And maybe you're wondering if you can even do this job for another 5, 10, or 15 years. You're not crazy. Things have changed. You're not failing. You're actually a really good teacher. Heck, you've been at it for quite some time, haven't you? And you're definitely not alone. But if nothing changes, nothing changes. Look, I want to show you why my reset framework can get you to the place where your students are paying attention, engaged, self-regulating, and actually learning while you're teaching. I want you to stop piecing things together. I want you to stop looking around for the answer because I think you may have found it. I want you to start looking forward to going into school every single day. I'm going to help you to reset your classroom and we're going to improve student behavior in the most effective way. All right, so are you in? Go to theinspiredclassroom.com/reset and see if this is the thing you've been looking for. So what's draining your energy the most right now in teaching? For a lot of teachers I talk to, it's not just the big behaviors, it's the little things that just keep adding up. The constant talking, the lack of effort, the students who just won't take responsibility. It's the student who says they don't have their paper before they even open up their backpack. Or it's the assignment that could be done in one sitting, but somehow it just drags on for days. And it's the constant reminders. And what makes it even harder is that you feel like you have to hold everything together because you can't just let things fall apart. That's not in you, right? You want your kids to do well, to succeed. You want them to try, and you want them to simply just have a pencil when they come to class. So of course you step in. And this is where it starts to wear on you because you're not just teaching, you end up managing everything and feeling like a babysitter, right? You're making sure that everything just keeps moving forward. And let's face it, it often feels like you're managing these bits of behavior and hand-holding more than you're actually teaching. That is so frustrating. And if you're like so many teachers that I talk to and hear from, it drains you really fast and just adds to the path to burnout. So let's talk about what's really going on here because it's easy to look at all of this and just think, well, my students just don't care, right? Or they're just not putting in the effort. But what if that's not actually the whole problem? Because think about what is happening. Students aren't getting materials out. They're not completing work. They're not taking responsibility. And so what do? We step in. We hand them another paper. We remind them again. We redirect them. We keep things moving because we have to. It's kind of part of our job. And if you're like me, you'd like to have the opportunity to move past these little annoyances and move on and get on with our lesson. But over time, it's like we become responsible for everything. And that's actually what's probably burning you out the most. It's not just the behaviors, but the weight of holding everything together. But if we go back to what we've been talking about over the last few episodes, behavior is a symptom. And that lack of effort, that's also a symptom too. Because when students don't feel connected, they start to disengage. And when they're not regulated, they avoid. And when they're not engaged, well, they just start checking out. This comes back to that foundation, the tripod of support that you really need inside of your classroom. It's connection, it's regulation, it's engagement. Because when those things aren't stable, you start to see it in the student's effort. And you start to see it in their responsibility, or lack thereof, actually. You start to feel it in your own energy. And all of this contributes to the daily teacher drain. And my goodness, I do not want that for you. So what do we do with all of this? It's all about how you approach these things. Some things you may need to fix, but not all. And that's when you can start to really shift things. So the first thing I want you to think about is how quickly do you actually step in? Because when a student says, I don't have it, it's so easy to just hand them another one and keep on moving. But what would happen if you just gave that student a little space first? If you let them check on their own, if you let them problem solve, even if it feels a little uncomfortable. In fact, just the other day, I had a student come up to me and said they didn't have their packet. And I looked at her and I said, okay, well, either find it or move on. Now, of course, you need to know I have a pretty good rapport with this student. So I was able to say that to her. And as shocking as that was for her to hear, she took it on her own self to go and actually look for it. And guess what? She found it. All right. Another simple shift is just naming what you're saying. So sometimes I'll say to a class, I'm noticing that I'm reminding you a lot to have a pencil when you come to my class, right? Which tells me that something is not working. Something is not clicking for you to remember as a fifth grader that when you come to this math class, you need to have a pencil. So let's fix that together. So I'm not trying to blame them necessarily. I am trying to put a little bit of responsibility on them, but I'm really trying to put some awareness to it. And taking that 5 or so minutes to really name what's going on and think this through as a group, sometimes that can be a huge help. And here's the third part of this. So the first one was stop doing everything for your students, right? Or at least start to become aware of when you are and stop doing it so much. The second thing is naming that pattern that you're noticing out loud. And now let's move into the third thing, which is shifting from just doing it for students or helping them so much with it to actually working with them to fix the problem. And this may be the biggest one. So instead of asking yourself, how do I keep everything moving? Instead, start asking, what does this class need so that they can carry more of this themselves? And this may be where you need to build in more time for things, which can be kind of tough because we're always looking for more time, but maybe allowing for students to have some time for themselves to get a little bit more organized is the right thing to try. Give them some time in the morning to actually get all of their things for the day and have a list on the board of what they will need. Give them some actual time during the day to take a clean sweep through their desk or their cubby or their backpack to look for things and reorganize. Talk to them before snack or lunch or recess and discuss what they should be doing during those times, which should be, eating, chatting, getting it out of your system so that you're ready for learning when you come back to the classroom. This is all part of the E inside the reset framework, establishing a classroom culture. And what it does is it helps students to understand what their role in the classroom actually is, what their role in learning is. And I want to say this too. You're not wrong for stepping in. You care and you want things to run smoothly. That's probably part of who you are, right? But when you're always the one holding it all together, that's just not sustainable. So if you're feeling drained right now, and it's not just the behaviors, it could be that weight of carrying everything. And when you start to shift that, even just a little, that's when things can really start to feel lighter. So think to yourself, what is one thing that you can do to take some of that load off of you? Will you pause the next time a student says that they can't find something and encourage them nicely to go look for it? Maybe a little nicer than I did with my student the other day. Will you have an established place in your room for extra papers and pencils and just do a simple pointing and redirecting for your students to go and take care of their needs that way? Or maybe you'll build in 5 minutes right in the middle of your day for students to purposefully reorganize the things that they have. That's actually something that I need to do more for my own kids. Yes, we have the morning time, we have some afternoon time, but I feel like we need to maybe put something in the middle there to help them get themselves organized and take almost an inventory of what they have. Because the thing is that you don't need a new set of strategies to try. Sometimes what you need is this moment to reflect and reset things for yourself. And when your classroom is reset, little by little, teaching starts to feel like you again. And if you want some help starting this process, I want you to go check out my online course, The Classroom Reset. It is the complete step-by-step on how you can improve student behaviors, increase engagement, and support your students' social and emotional skills. Go to theinspiredclassroom.com/reset to check and see if it's the right next thing for you. I hope this episode inspired you, encouraged you, or gave you a fresh idea to try. And if so, I would love for you to take a screenshot and text it to one of your teaching buddies. I'm so grateful that you landed here with me today, and it would mean the world to me if you would leave me a review over on Apple Podcast. Thanks so much for being here, and I'll catch you on the next episode. This is Elizabeth Peterson reminding you to get inspired so you can be inspiring to your students and enjoy teaching again.